You may have noticed that some of my recent content, not all of it, because I'm just a creatrix. Like, I am just creating in so many different pockets all of the time. But one of these pockets has been coded with teachings relative to power and vulnerability, multidimensionality in the human, right? There's light and there's shadow. My absolute specialty, I have a lot of them, but the main one, if I'm going to categorize all of it, is integration. And as I teach, integration is evolution. Integration is embodiment. Integration is consciousness. So what can happen is that when you are integratively embodied in a fuller way, people's shadow material and quadrants that they're not occupying that fullness will get lit the fuck up. And this also turns into a shit ton of projections, misunderstandings, false power dynamics. It's a part of the plight of a divine mirror, which I very much so am. So I receive far more projection than the average person. It's a part of my life path. It's not something I would have in my human form chosen for myself, but it is something that ongoingly expands me. It contracts me and it expands me. So in relationship to power and vulnerability, this is how it will kind of move in patterns and dynamics. There's a lot of layers here and I can only touch into some. When I express my power, when I hold it and I own it, which is something that I facilitate with my clients, like teaching them how to, modeling how to, and calling them through processes in order to really hold and own the fullness that they are, including their medicine, their sight, their unobstructed expression, on and on and on and on. When I do that, commonly there will be people that are like, you are so in your ego. That is your spiritual ego. And some of them, like I've had some people follow me online and try to find ways to privately message me with things relative to this thing. Because you know why? We're living in a disempowered collective. Like humanity is so much more powerful than it is giving itself credit for. And if we were giving ourselves credit, we would not be living in the fuckery that we are. We would not have like the weird systems that we have in place that keep us in a victim mentality and don't have us believing in and also seeing what we actually are and what we're capable of. So sometimes when there's a person saying like you're egoic, I can also feel an entity behind them that is attempting to control them from not coming into their power, because as long as you're disempowered, it can feed off of you. But if you're in your power, it can't do the same thing in the same way. So my teachings, whether you realize it or not, and I know many of you do realize it, come with high level coding, even when it doesn't seem like it. And it can activate and it can touch into spaces that are very sensitive. And so if you're not willing to actually be like, ooh, okay, what was that inside of me? Then you're not willing to hold it. You'll project it, right? You'll toss it onto me. Now you can't see me. You can't see who I actually am in my fullness, including of my power. But also you have to deny how willing I am for exposure, for vulnerability, for highlighting things that I witness inside of myself as shadow in my own patterns and dynamics, because I ongoingly do that. So what is it to say, oh, you're so in your ego? Okay, ego, I teach this in my teachings as there's true ego, which is actually your true self-identity. Okay? A lot of people will call that your ego because they don't know what that is. They haven't come into that part of their own process of like really holding and owning their soul and anchoring and grounding it to earth. And therefore holding and owning their power, their ability to see, their ability to activate, their medicine, right? So when we're looking at true identity versus false ego inflates itself. False ego is telling a story that is not true. But when you're holding and owning your power in a way that is true, it just is. It's not up for debate. It just is. Now, when we get into multidimensionality and why this commonly is associated with inside of that realm is because we are multidimensional beings, and there's more to us than just what is here in our human. And so there are many of us that have incarnated with really large missions, and we also have come into remembering who and what we are beyond the veil. The more you embody your true self, the more you'll actually remember these things. And then that's another segment of integration, processes of dissension, to bring these parts of yourself here in your awareness. And then you can engage the brilliance of those parts in this human experience in a way that's deeply meaningful at ground. Many times what happens is people will start to remember themselves. They'll have like an activation or an awakening, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I remember that I was this thing in this place. Like, let's say I was a galactic ambassador in Lyra and whatever it is, right? And it's like, yes, that is true. Love that you are discovering more of yourself. If you're not willing to hold the responsibility of what that actually is, though, then it'll turn into these false egoic structures. If you're not willing to simultaneously hold your human with absolute accuracy, okay, I was a galactic ambassador, and that speaks to my power. It also speaks to my potential. But my potential isn't necessarily what is here. How do I bring this to here? Well, part of how you do that is that you engage your human. You engage your human, which a lot of people are not doing. They'll keep it up here, and then they'll elevate themselves and pedestal themselves in a way that's not actual and equal to their embodiment. You get to be this thing, and you also get to be this thing. You are these things all simultaneously. If you let go of one quadrant versus the other, you will find yourself fractured and in forms of illusion. And because so much of this realm has what I teach as false power dynamics, narratives, and conditioning, this is prevalent. It's one of my absolute core, most essential teachings. I have a lot about this in my membership group because it is so important. And I recognize that it's like at least 95% of people are not understanding it. It's like most people are operating in codependency. Codependency also has false power dynamics in it. So when we can actually start engaging the truth of true power, okay? True power is connected to your true identity because it's a part of your true self. This differs from false power, which is connected to false ego. So if you're like, oh, I'm this thing, and you haven't addressed the conditioning of false power at ground level in your human, it is very likely that you will go into a dissociative spiritual ego, and you will pedestal yourself above where you actually are. This is part of why, I'll just give you a little secret here, an insider secret. My application process for my membership group, the Integrative Evolutionary, asks about hierarchy. And it asks a person on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. And this is relative to current human collective consciousness. Where would you place yourself? Where would you place yourself? Because I am so attuned, I can attune to someone. I can attune to their potential. I can attune to their soul essence. I can attune to their multidimensionality. I can also feel them at their human and the ground level, right? So I can sense a lot. And because of what I'm meant to teach with like what I call true hierarchy, there is actual hierarchy. Let's not throw the baby out the bathwater, okay? Because now you're going to gaslight yourself. When I am asking this question, I'm seeing where would someone place themselves and how accurate is it? Because I can actually feel where you accurately are. So if you say, I'm a 10 on that scale, and I can sense that though you are wildly, unbelievably, most people have no fucking clue how powerful you are, multidimensionality, and how much you can see and how much you feel, how intuitive you are. You don't have the ground level human skills. Like you're having a really hard time financially. I'm not saying that everyone doesn't, like that if you have ground level skills, you're going to have financial base, because that's not an entire truth. But I'm saying like to materialize in the physical is very difficult for you. If relationships are very difficult for you, this doesn't mean that you're not in places of isolation, because you're a powerful being. I'm talking about your communication skills, your boundaries, your ability to actually process somatically, hold yourself emotionally. What does your attachment look like? Right? These are ground level skills. How grounded in reality are you? Are you dissociating, or are you able to be present in this world? So if you say you're 10, I can sense and I can see, okay, this person is not acknowledging their human as much. And I can see that this dynamic of this formulation of a spiritual ego is in play. And I have lots of love and compassion. Right? So this isn't about judgment. This is about just like, okay, we see it, and now we're going to be with it. And we're going to be with it accurately. And we're going to be with it in a way that is evolutionary, that helps you inside of your process. I also have people that will be like sometimes even someone will be like, I'm a 6. And I'm like, interesting, because I sent you at a 7.5. And I'll just let them, and oftentimes it'll be like, well, I do have a way about humbling myself, and like I did actually feel like I was more like closer to what I was perceiving them to be. But then I decided I'm going to take it down a notch. And I'm like, okay, this person is willing to humble themselves. They're willing to be humble. But in my teachings, there's a puric form of humble, and there's a conditioned form of humble. that tells you you can't hold and own your power. So it takes you out of your accuracy of what you actually are, and it diminishes it. And this turns into like, there's like an invisibility factor. Okay, let's cloak the power. Let's not take in the power. Power initiations are wild, y'all. Wild. Like, wild. So part of you would then be like, no, don't walk through that corridor. Oh no, I don't want the responsibility of holding the all of me. So what I'm showing you is examples of how someone could be like, yeah, I'm so willing to hold my multidimensional power, but they're not willing to acknowledge they're human. Another way where someone's really multidimensionally powerful and they're willing to hold their human, they're vulnerable, but yet they're not willing to hold their power. And actually, these two things are not separate. We might have to go through processes to integrate, but they're meant to be completely moving in tandem. And most people are not doing that. They're holding these things separately. I also do this in moments in my process, but I'm also at the leading edge of this kind of level of integration, because even my name, Ashtyn, it's about the ash tree, and it's about being the deepest roots and the highest branches in the cosmos. Like, my name itself is integration. You look at my astrology chart and you'll be like, oh my God, integration. I'm like, I know. Like, it just is a part of who and what I am. So even with holding mastery relative to integration and leading and teaching and having like literal bodies of work and working with clients through these things, I also can see where, oh my God, I didn't hold my tenderness. I didn't hold my vulnerability. In this moment, someone else was approaching me and expecting that no matter what they threw at me, that I was going to hold my strength and power. But actually what I needed to communicate in that moment was, I need your tenderness. I need for you to meet me in a softer way. Because, for example, your projection in this moment is asking for my strength, but you simultaneously are using projection as a weapon onto me. And it is not my role and responsibility to be the teacher and to lead while you're also simultaneously creating harm for me. I need for you to soften and show up with tenderness for my human, because these things do impact me. Do you now see an example that I'm showing? People will go, strength is to not show your vulnerability. Fuck that. That is a conditioning that weakens the feminine essence, because she is feeling. And so it'll be like, oh, that's never going to affect you. That's how you know, like, that you've gotten here. And I'm like, no, that's actually an armoring. That's a hardening. That's a hardening your heart. That's a unwillingness to actually admit, I am vulnerable. I am vulnerable because I am sensitive. I have a nervous system. I have feelings. And what has happened collectively in society, because we are ignoring this, we are invalidating it, we are disengaging from it, we are saying that it is weakness rather than recognizing that it is a profound strength, is that we are overall becoming inhumane. Do you hear what I'm saying? Are you connecting it? Inhumane, not acknowledging the human. And human is not weakness. Like, even how we use the words, my human, it's usually my weaknesses. And this is not true. It may be my vulnerabilities. Oh, some of my shadow. Oh, I got ancestral shit going on. Do you know how many beings are like, I won't go to Earth? There are a lot lined up for Earth, but a lot are like, no, I'm not really interested in that level. That's strength. It takes strength to be here and be in a human body, especially the more powerful and multidimensional you are. Very difficult to anchor power and very difficult to anchor things that have never been here on earth, which many of the people I work with, that's what you are. That's what you are here to do. That's why we're working together, because I also am an anchor. I help people anchor. I help them in dissension. I help them come into their bodies. I help them feel safe. I hold a true motherly sanctuary essence that is a very large, expansive container for you to come into yourself. I validate who you are in truth. I won't ever sign off on anything that you are not, because we work with accuracy, because accuracy is truth. Accuracy is alignment. So this disheartening piece, this inhumane piece, it is going to come the fuck up in 2025. Y'all, I have been literally prepping y'all for months. The people in my group, we've already been through 2 part 1 and part 2 immersives relative to heart work and womb work and like what is coming up. And like, even before people were like, oh, we're touching into core wound stuff and purging, I was like, it's coming, y'all. Like, it is coming. What I'm talking about right now is also connected to that, because we have disconnected ourselves from ourselves. We have disconnected ourselves from our hearts. And when you do that, you disconnect yourself from your humanity. And when you do that, you disconnect yourself from humanity itself. And so this looks like wild things, like what we, for example, see on social media, where someone shares themselves vulnerably, and other people come in with their false power dynamics. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. I'm going to try to problem solve for you. Or I'm going to see that you are raw and you're open and you're vulnerable. I'm going to energetically attack you, especially for women. I'm going to try to into your womb, especially if you have an original womb. That's really powerful. I'm going to bully you. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to attack you. I've been experiencing a lot of this because I'm always called to do the work at the very leading edge. So like far before most are called into something. And so as I've been doing a lot of heart work, a lot of somatic work, a lot of womb work, and I already do all of that, y'all. This is at deeper and deeper layers. Don't get it twisted. Like, I go deep and wide into untouched places that other people have not gone. That is a part of my role here. So as I've been doing this, there's been openings and purging and vulnerability. And then what happened? Like, it was like everywhere I turned, projection. Oh, I'm wanting support. I'm wanting connection. I'm wanting it was fucking insane. And so grateful to all of you that don't do that, that know me and love me and are very mindful not to project on me, especially those who are, for example, in my membership group, who understand the way that my field works. And so you're especially mindful. And then just for the friends and people that I have in my life that are more capable and willing to hold the totality of me and don't need the power dynamics to be in place to feel worthy, because that's not where worth comes from. That's where warfare comes from. As we're moving into 2025, so much of this is going to come up to be looked at. We are going to see, I said this in my last newsletter, but I'm going to repeat myself. It's very important. It's going to be coming up through the heart of man. This is a responsibility of the masculine. He is going to see the destruction that he's actually caused. He's going to feel the genuine full extent of feminine ache, and woo! Is he not prepared for it? But at the same time, it's gonna be happening. This is far greater than my words can convey. And the wombs of women are going to also be releasing a lot. We've been doing that. Many of us, we're all on a spectrum. We're all at different places inside of the process. But the womb is going to be going to more layers, and it's going to relate to the heart work that men are doing. Not to say that women aren't doing heart work too. You will be. We're always holding more, y'all. Just let's be real. The feminine holds the most because she is the most. She's the infinite. So as this is taking place, it's also going to be calling women into their power, into their sovereignty, into their sovereign expression. Okay? My coding and my teachings, remember, I'm like fully integrative here. It's the unified heart, that is the feminine integrating with the masculine. And it is, because the masculine's called to do heart work. And there's a missing masculine heart. There's the whole teachings behind this. If you want more information, apply for my membership group. And then there's the sovereign womb. So what this looks like for women is, for example, like taking on a lot of projection from external influences and then going, absolutely fucking not, and just taking your rod and just landing it in the earth and being like, I see, I know, you do not know. You do not know more than me what I know that I am here for. Specifically, here is my power. The feminine's going to be holding her power even more. And then she holds her power more. And then he's like, oh shit, look at how society, including the masculine element, has been conditioned to disempower her, to ignore her, to unsee her, to create these narratives that the masculine always leads and not see how the feminine has been leading the whole time, how she's actually leading collective evolution. There's a lot to this. So there's going to be that happens ongoingly. And we do need to get prepared for it. We need to get prepared for it. I'm telling you what, the more prepared you can get for it, the more you can preemptively be with the content in a way that it's like, okay, it's more digestible, because these waves are going to hit, y'all. They're going to hit. They already are starting. And this is going to go far into 2025. At least the first 6 months. At least. And then there's years after that we're still going to be processing things that are happening now and are coming in 2025. So the ways that I have for you to be with this, one, my membership group. That's super supportive. But on one-on-one, I have my womb reflection session for women. These are somatic, shamanic sessions that are customized to your system. These sessions are more than I can say. You have to experience it and just trust yourself. Just go get this session. just fucking do it. Seriously, you will thank yourself later. You will know later what you don't know now. And I also have my shamanic heart reclamation for men. Oh my gosh. Like, ladies, if you're listening and you know a man that is on a conscious path, if you have a partner, recommend this session. I'm telling you what, because remember I said the heart and the womb are going to be working together, right? So if you have a man that's really essential in your life, and let's say you're in a relationship, maybe you're not, but let's just say in a relationship, his heart work is going to impact your womb work, and your womb work is going to impact his heart. There's a whole thing that is happening. Okay, there's a lot more that I could say on this topic. I think that I'm very appropriately here, unshowered. It's my day to wash my hair. I've got, this massive thing on my nose that's been going on. No makeup. Because this is about honoring yourself. Like, can you love your humanity? Can you love your body? Can you love the way your soul's expression moves in tandem and through your human? Can you love into your weak spots and to your growth edges? Can you be real, and can you be raw, and can you be unhinged? unhidden. The reason why I am able to go on social media, but especially in my membership group, because I can show so much more, and there's so much more teaching, and just there's more there. It's a very full space. But I show everything. I'm like, oh, I'm so fucking deep in this thing. And I'll say, like, this transmission is a transmission where I'm still in it. Do you know why I share those things? There's many reasons, but one of the reasons is because a lot of teachers will teach you from their own completion, because they feel like if they show you when they're in the down and they show you fully when they're in the process and they don't have the gold at the end of the rainbow, that they lose their authority. And a lot of these dynamics that I've been talking about, like, people will project onto you that you're less. I have to teach my clients how to not do that, because it's also to teach them how to not do that with inside of themselves. So much more aligned. It is so much more clean, and it is so much more true. Because let's look at this. When we go for image, which unfortunately most people do, when we go for image and what someone puts out as their authority, as their thing, like, they're not willing to show they're human, right? People aren't going to buy from them if they show they're human. They are telling themselves in every single moment that they do that, that part of them is not worthy. Every single time. And then they have to build up the ego. They have to build up the persona. They have to build up the image. And then they have to hold that up. Do you know how unsafe that is in a teaching, coaching, counseling container? That person is intentionally creating mental and otherwise structures to hide themselves from themselves, to be the authority, even in places where they're not meant to be an authority. This turns into all of this kind of fuckery that we see commonly in healing, coaching, counseling, teaching, mentor kind of dynamics. When that person says to themselves, I'm not willing to look at that part of myself, if you bring in that thing, they'll feel threatened by it. Or they'll project onto it their own shadow. They'll start to contort a narrative around it. It is not going to be helpful to you. This is why I'm like, look, y'all. Actually, my willingness to be vulnerable, my willingness to be like, look at my shit on the table. Look at that conditioning. That's actually an insane reservoir of love. It's coming from actual embodied love, which is unfortunately rare here on earth. What do you think that feels like in session? How much space do you think you have comparative to someone that is like, nope, can't allow that to be seen, can't allow that to be seen, gotta construct this thing, do this thing, modify, mold, And then they're gonna throw that onto you. My clients are so much safer. They're so much safer in the work that we do together. Because I don't bring in the false power dynamics. I'm not trying to compete with your power. I'm not trying to be an authority over top of you. I'm a collaborator at a soul level, but I'm also a guide and I'm a teacher because I hold my actual wisdom, insight, and power, and I hold my place in consciousness accurately. Accurately. I'm not going to tell you you need to do things exactly the way that I do them and then will diminish you when your soul is like, that's not my path, that's not. No, we are going to actually move in tandem together. You are so much safer by not receiving projections. Now, that doesn't mean that the field that I hold, which is quite fucking alchemical and purifying and initiates like you wouldn't believe, isn't going to pull things up inside of you. We want that to happen. But you know what will also happen is I'll ask you to hold it. and not landed on my lap because I don't operate in codependency. Do you see what I'm saying? This work is extraordinarily cleaner. And it comes from this place of being willing to hold and own my power, as well as willingness to love into all of my spaces of vulnerability, to allow all of it to be on the table. Another example, I will never tell you that I know when I don't know. Like, that is ego. Have you had a teacher, a mentor, or healer do that? And it's been pretty fucked up, right? It usually turns into projection. And it definitely isn't guidance that is aligned for you, that is customized for you, because it's actually based in their own untouched shadow. So, when you see my content online, you need to be able, I ask you, I invite you to hold the all of me, and actually you will recognize the absolute profound, rare to find brilliance inside of it. That I will like hold and own my power at levels that most people, they'll be like, oh shit. Like they're scared. Like, girl, you better protect yourself. Don't tell people who you are. Right? And I'm like, that's what I'm meant to do right now. I know it. I know I'm meant to do that right now. And trust me, holding what this is. There's a lot of disbelief around who and what I am when I'm like willing to hold it at that level. And I am Ashtyn. I am so sensitive. Oh my gosh, I'm so sensitive and sentimental, and I feel so deeply. And there are days where I'm like, damn, I need to stay in bed for like 5 days right now because I am integrating so much. I'm purging. And that's a part of me also being feminine, being like, my feminine is going, we gotta slow and we gotta open and we gotta just like really be deep inside of it. And like, that's it right now. That is the thing to do. That is loving. That is someone who has done work of unraveling patriarchal conditions and structures inside of her body to allow her feminine essence to be the wisdom and to be led by life and her own initiations. That's not weakness. A lot of these human perceptions are misperceptions, and I receive so much of that it both allows me to see into human collective conditioning and patterns like you wouldn't believe, because they're constantly being thrown at me all of the time, incessantly. But it also allows me to see and like deeply love into me, like always calling me back to my center, always being like, whoa, this is the truth of your essence. Oh, the shadow material that people are flying at you, you're holding the medicine, you're holding the elixir. Like, you are this thing that differs from that thing. So I'm also calling you into a place of like deeply loving and seeing yourself, and to be so raw and vulnerable, and like you can just show up messy, and you could do it in the public eye. You could you love yourself that deeply? Because where you can't, it's not, love is not there. Love might be underneath it. But what you're experiencing is shame. Shame. And shame is a block to love. It's not allowing love to actually really touch you. Okay, I am so here for it. I'm so here for each and every one of you who this calls to. This is like a part of my work. It gives you a taste of like some of the coding, things that I bring in, some of my teachings, possibly how it can support you, like bringing love into places of shame, helping you integrate your multidimensionality with your human, a willingness to be deeply humble, but also hold your power. And so fucking much more. So if that calls to you, feel free to message me, my link in my bio. I don't know, I might put this on my newsletter. So however you can go about it to find me. If you're not on my newsletter, definitely sign up for my newsletter. Like it's incredible value that you will receive every single month through the teachings, not just the writings, but the videos. Make sure that you're watching the videos because you're signed up for something and it's like, I'm gifting this, right? And it will deeply support you in your evolutionary process. I'm oftentimes talking about collective tide things, and then we're going deeper. And then feel free to, of course, share. Get the word out. Look, it is true that there are a lot of practitioners and teachers that they're not of quality. And actually, many of them end up creating a shit ton of harm. And if you knew my backstory, you would understand how diligently I have been in setting up my business and the work that I do to not be one of those people doing those things, because I have been in the presence of those people and been impacted by them in really negative ways. Don't have that be the barrier to you not receiving support, because there are actual really quality practitioners. We might be rare to find, that is true. And the higher in consciousness you go, the more difficult it is to find someone who's going to really see you and really meet you and really be there to support you. And the cleanliness and the purity factor to also be there, the integrity, the authenticity, right? The pristine energetic, be there. These are all things that I pride myself on because they're based in truth, not in a persona that I built around myself and the work that I do. So share, because I really want for people to know and to have access to quality support and facilitation. And I am that. I became that because I wanted it for myself so badly, and I wanted it for other people so badly that I wanted to be the thing that filled the gap. But people have to know that I'm here to know that this resource is here. So please do share my name, share my work, tag people, encourage them to sign up for my newsletter, step into the work yourself, right? Like give yourself the gift of really being in a space that genuinely supports you. As always, so much love to each and every one of you.